good?
Yep.
All right, let's call this meeting to order at 5:34. We are here to have the capital improvement budget meeting. Talk about what we're going to spend money on the coming year, how much money we have to spend in the coming year. Okay, Tony, you want to go ahead and review the numbers for us?
All right, guys. Got a lot of projects this year, not a whole lot of money, so we gotta figure out what we want.
Can you hold it for 1 second? I need a motion and a second to excuse Avia from this meeting. I'm sorry.
So moved.
Second.
We need a roll call.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye. Okay, we're good. We're good. Sorry about that, Tony.
it's okay.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
So to Tony, if we have questions about particular items on this, do you want us to wait till the end to ask the questions or broach it as we get to that topic?
Now let's just, as we go through each department, we can talk about, you can
Okay.
ask questions, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I know there's gonna be a lot of questions, so. But just to start with, we've got almost $390,000 as of the end of November in this permanent improvement fund. And that's because we had $62,000 to start with, and then we got in 571 this year and only spent 243. We knew we weren't going to spend that much because we pushed off some projects. Plus, we also got in some money from the waterworks. That's going to be for the Petoskey Road project. That was 165, so that's already in there. And then for 2021, we'll collect about $408,000 in real estate tax. So that'll get us up to $798,000 in the fund. But then we got we've got the payments for the bond and the ambulance of 152. So that brings us down to available balance of 645. And just to comment on the bond and the ambulance. I mean, it doesn't have to come out of this fund, but we've taken it out of there because it is permanent improvement type of activity. The building and the ambulance, that's a capital item. But if council wanted to, we could take it out of the general fund, but that would just reduce or increase the deficit that we have over there.
Yeah,
I know we got a lot of projects here too, though.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got 645 to start, 646 starting balance, and then we'll go over the chief's wants for 2021, new car, and part of that can come from the alcohol education fund, like we've taken in the past, and then cameras, body cameras, car cameras, for a total of $50,000. So I don't know if you guys want to talk about each department as we go through them.
Yeah.
Hey, Chief, that's only car cameras, right?
Those
For
are
30?
either in-car cameras or body cameras, depending on where we decide to go.
Okay.
So body cams, I don't know that we can't. I doubt that we'd be able to purchase a body camera for $30,000.
Yeah, that's, I think, the conversation you and I had as far as the cost of body camera. That's pretty significant.
But the car cams we can get for about 30.
Yeah, that's of course, that's a pretty close guesstimate. That's correct.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Tony.
Right.
Go ahead.
So that's all the chief had, and then Fletch had just some turnout gear and equipment totaling about 18,000, and that's pretty typical. He gets some new sets every year. Is that right, Fletch?
Yeah.
That's correct. 5 complete sets of turnout gear keeps us on pace so no one's in expired gear.
All right.
Hey,
Thank you.
hold on a minute, Tony. Fletch, you want to go ahead and tell us about the heart monitors?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
This was a discussion the mayor and Chief Hines and I had, not so much pertaining to this particular part of the meeting, but why everybody's together. We have 2 cardiac heart monitors within the department, and they're of some age. There's really no potential replacement on those because we don't buy them just because of new technology and stuff. We use them until we can't. We have one monitor, our oldest one, that's recently developed some issues. It had to be sent out to a third-party vendor to have a board that was already used, basically the brains of it, installed into it so that it's functioning again. Well, some other things have gone bad too. So I looked into a refurbishment monitor, which really is non-existent anymore because of that technology. The heart monitor would basically be the same. It just has upgraded technology within it so that if something would happen to it, it could be repaired where this one cannot. Looking into it, we can use COVID funds to do this if everyone's in agreement to take the burden off of the village. That is one of the approved items. And currently Stryker, who is the maker of the monitor, is offering a trade-in program. So basically, if you trade this defective monitor in, they'll give you half price towards the purchase of a new one. So essentially, I need to definitely get one, but with this potential half off with them, I didn't know if council would want to use the COVID funds and just get 2 of them now, and basically that would wipe that off the map for the near future of any potential needs from that aspect of the permanent improvement or any future budgeting for it.
Okay, so Tim, so that we understand, you would essentially be talking about, I would assume they'd be getting half off on the second model. So in essence, it'd be like we're getting 2 monitors for the price of 1. Is that correct?
That is correct. The average cost of these monitors now are $35,000 a piece, but with the trade-in, it drops it down to 18 and some change.
Okay, so we get 2 monitors then for 35?
Correct, and use COVID funds if everyone's in agreement, but I'm not quite sure where that fund still stands with the village. So that's why we wanted to
You know
ask.
where the fund still stands, the COVID fund?
Yeah, we've got enough like payroll and benefits and IT kind of costs to cover everything already. But if we got a good deal on it, I say let's go and get it.
Yeah.
If we really need it.
So we have enough left to cover that.
Well, I think what Tony's saying is not that there's enough left, it's just that we've taken some salary and put it in there. You could just take that salary back out and put this in its place.
Right, exactly.
So we've filled it up, but again, there's some of the costs, you know.
Right, we could still move stuff around.
It seems kind of foolish not to do this.
You can't see.
This sounds like this is something that's going to be staring at us next year. And I don't know whether the deal would still be available from Stryker.
So can we act before the end of this year to get it against those COVID?
Would we have, Tony, would we have to act like really soon in order to, have this appropriated before the end of the year?
Yes.
So let me ask a couple questions. The COVID money we received has all been spoken for, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we
We
don't
can
even have to
move
talk
around,
about,
yeah.
we don't even talk about COVID money unless we get additional COVID money in 2021. So, this item is either going to come out of the 2021 permanent improvement budget or come out of the general fund. And we're going to have a long list of stuff we need to talk about here about, what do we need to spend money on in 2021? And so I wouldn't be rushing to do something before the end of the year on specifically this monitor, because I think we've got other stuff we have to figure out how we're going to pay for also. There's going to be a long list of stuff that needs to be funded here.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just bringing this up because this is a vital piece of our operations.
No, I appreciate that, Tim. And is there anything else? Because again, we've got your 10-year projection here. Anything else you see in the next couple years, like the heart monitor, that's going to pop up and say, hey, I need a replacement? Or
I do not. It was not on that list because it's something that we did not expect it to take this route. It's not something that gets thrown around on fire runs and stuff. It's taken care of. It's just something with the technology.
Okay. So is there anything else we could anticipate? I mean, you got a lot of equipment, that you carry around.
I mean, you could try to anticipate all day, but with these type of items, there's no potential life expectancy on them. So we just try to guesstimate on that, where others, such as the turnout gear and stuff, basically has a stamped time that it has to be replaced.
Yeah, so let's do this. Tim, you and I, after this, let's sit down and kind of talk about how we might be able to budget for this type of stuff, where we just have, somewhat of an equipment budget for the fire department. And we don't know where we're going to spend it, but we know something's going to pop up.
Okay.
I mean, stuff just wears out. And how much do we anticipate that need is for, annually? I mean, is that, something we can try to do?
We could talk about it. Yeah. I mean, it would be really tough to put a number on it unless you create that separate fund potentially for it, or increase, one of the other categories such as maintenance or something for this potential year. But I mean, we can discuss it, but I'll be honest, I won't be able to give you 100% specific items of when they may go bad, just like.
No, I understand that, but in general, stuff's going to wear out. And so, and we'll probably keep running. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of equipment you got either on the fire truck or on the paramedic vehicle that has the same type of potential. You got boards. I mean, this stuff is very complex. It's got a lot of computer technology embedded in it, and these boards are going to wear out.
Okay.
Hey, Tim, let me ask you this. How long is this 2-for-1 offer good for?
Until January is what I was told.
So, I mean, we'd have sort of a short window in here to sort of take advantage of this kind of.
With the trade-in deal that Stryker's offering currently, yes.
End of January?
Yeah, you mean like the beginning of January, the end of January, middle of January?
The end of this year from what I've obtained from the salesman.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, I think,
Well,
Joe,
we're gonna have to make a decision.
Joe, that adds a little extra pressure on this. I mean, I take your point, but I would sort of hate to lose an opportunity here. Now, let me understand, Tim. I mean, one of the monitors already is not working and it's not repairable.
Correct. We can send it back out again for the evaluation of the repairing. And if they can locate some parts somewhere, it may be able to be repaired. But I'm currently on a lifeline with Stryker. They're letting me borrow a monitor, and that's not going to be for an extended period of time. So that's what brought this up. And originally, we need one. But with that deal, I didn't know if we wanted to, kind of as Joe just suggested, project that potential wear on this one and go ahead and take care of it, being the fact, not knowing that all the COVID money was spoken for already, using that because it is approved to use for such items.
Yeah, I understand. But as Tony was saying, just so the rest of us are clear on this, even though we apparently have appropriated most of the COVID money for salaries and that type of thing, we could, Tony, if I'm correct about this, we could just, it's a bookkeeping kind of a thing, right? We could simply remove some of that money and move it someplace else. Is that correct?
Correct. Right.
Yeah, it's a classification.
No, you're looking at this totally wrong. The COVID money's gone. It's spoken for. We spent it in 2020. If we're going to go out of pocket for this thing, it's either going, it's new cash being spent. I don't think the COVID money's already been spoken for. It's gone.
Well, it's spoken for, Joe, but it's not gone.
It's either going to come out of one pocket or another. So
we're playing a shell game here, whether we realize it or not.
I mean, do we really need it, or do we want to buy it? Do we want to get this deal or not?
I think just take the COVID money and set it aside. That argument doesn't even matter. If you want to talk about whether we absolutely need this at this point, that's the argument to have. COVID is not an argument at this point because we figured out how to use that COVID money.
The only thing that I'm thinking here, Joe, is if we know we've got to buy a monitor. It looks like we've got to buy one monitor that costs $35,000. Okay, and we've got another monitor that has some time on it, but we can get two new ones, not have to worry about a monitor purchase for quite a few years down the road for the price of what one's going to cost us.
I'm not going to argue with that logic, but I'm just a little bit surprised that this has popped out, here. And that's why I want to know what else we have. What can we reasonably anticipate we're going to need to spend in the next 12, 24, 36 months?
Okay. Well, that's a separate exercise, I think we said, right?
Yeah.
So Joe, you're going to meet with Tim about that, right?
That would be fine.
Yeah. And so let's circle back. So we have a specific question about at least one monitor we probably need to get, at least one, because the one's broken, it sounds like.
Mhm.
Do we want to go ahead and try and get that done this year while we can still get 50% off? Because we could do other things. We just buy one, right? And get half off on one and spend $17,500.
Yeah,
That's the other thing to do.
Yeah, that's an option.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, how bad off is that one that's functioning right now, or you just don't know? Could die at any moment.
It's not functioning. It's sitting in the office here waiting to be sent out to have them see if it's repairable. And
I thought you said we had two. So we have,
no, the one is pretty much write one off. We need one currently, but with
Yeah.
that deal that they're offering, if we took the bad one and the one that's currently still good for the other ambulance,
Oh, I get what you mean.
traded those in, we can get 2 monitors basically for what the cost of one is.
Okay, I gotcha. I mean, is it reasonable to maybe split the difference and just turn in the broken one and get a new one and then pay half price for that and keep the other one?
From my standpoint, that's perfectly fine. I mean, that's what we need. We need one, but I wanted to ask because of the deal that they currently have, if we wanted to potentially take care of any issues with that other monitor that may happen down the road that I'm unable to project.
How old is that monitor?
The one that's sitting here is probably
Or the functioning one?
9 years old, I think, 9 or 10. But-
And how old was the other one?
It's 12.
12? And it's
But
been repaired once? So
Yeah,
it's safe to assume that this second one is on its last legs? Or reasonably close? The functioning one?
it could be. It could last us for an undetermined amount of time, or it could go kaput tomorrow. I don't know the technology things and what they do. We have these serviced once a year and so on, and it recently passed in February that everything was good. And then one day we were doing the morning checks and the monitor wouldn't turn on, sent that out and the board was bad. So
Yeah, those things can turn on a dime.
So we need to make a decision here because sounds like this 50% off ends at the end of this month. So we're not gonna be able to reconnect on this thing. We need to make a decision now about buying, if you want to buy one, if you want to buy two, if you want to buy none, we need to make a call about that.
Tim, is it buy two, get it for half price, or is it you have the option to buy just one for half price?
we have the option. It's basically half price per monitor. You give them your
Okay.
existing monitor, they'll take the credit of half of that and then apply it, and you're basically paying half price for a brand new monitor.
Yeah, I know. It's given the ages of those two monitors, it seems like we're getting close to the end of the life of the second one too.
Yeah, I mean, you determine.
Okay,
the
I'm gonna ring in here. I totally disagree buying a second monitor at this point on, a notice of 30 minutes during this meeting. We've got a laundry list of stuff that we need to spend money on in this village. A lot of deferred maintenance items and all the rest. And I don't know where we're going to find the money to do it. And that's what, we need to be talking about right now. And I wouldn't be going, spending additional amounts until we figure out the rest of this stuff.
I don't disagree with you, Joe. So Tim, when you send it, you're going to send the second monitor, the one that's still working, you're going to send it out to get it checked on. Is that right?
No, the one that is not working, I have not sent it out to see if this is even repairable. It could be, but I was looking at other options so that we've looked into everything before I send this out. And then, this potential deal that I found out about passes. And then it's like, hey, I need 36,000 to buy this thing. So it's still sitting here. It's not been sent out. I'm waiting for the packaging to be sent here to send it back to them.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'd be fine with us buying at least one then for now, because we got to replace the one that, well, it sounds like highly likely we're going to need to replace the one.
Yeah.
And we can hold off on the second one for now until we get to see what all the other options are, all the other things that are in the queue. But at
Hey
least,
guys, just FYI, I'm trying to get John in.
okay. So
I think we
what about, do we want to have a discussion about that? Just buying the one, like Joe was saying, we buy one now, we can put the other one on a list and see where that shakes out with all the other things we have to discuss tonight.
Yeah. Let's try that.
All right, so we're adding $17,000 for a monitor for the fire. Is that correct?
But this year, to spend it this year too, ideally.
Oh, that's okay, yeah. So
It has
we
to
don't have to worry about that then.
be purchased by the end of this month.
Yeah. Okay.
The actual price would be $18,365 with the trade-in for the one monitor, Tony. I don't know if that matters for your numbers, but
It's already been, we've appropriated enough. last year that we didn't spend, so we're good there. Moving on to maintenance. Just threw in 50,000 for trees, and we can talk about that. We can do 20, 30, because there's a discussion about what's really maintenance versus what's permanent improvement as far as trees go. So I know planting new trees is something that it would be considered permanent improvement. And then if we're just going to do trimming, then that should go into maintenance. And then we got dump truck. John's looking at. I'm not sure how old his trucks are, but I think they're getting up there in age. Aerial lift truck.
You attached a sheet showing that age. He's trying to get in. I just sent him a link again. He's trying to get in.
All right.
Just
And then something about the sewers that was need to establish a fund to help pay for repairs. This service department took care of repairing 6 catch basins and 5 storm drains. There are 3 that need contractors to repair and service. John had some, he talked about some stuff at the bell tower and pool, tennis, but that's taken care of in a different section. But the bell tower, boathouse, there's continuing to be problems, leaks, and a new batting cage at the bell tower. So hopefully John can come in and he can talk about these things.
says he can't get into his village email, so I tried his personal email. So we'll see.
All right, while we're waiting on that, we can transition to the swimming pool, swimming and tennis. A lot of, huge list of items that the pool came out with this year.
Does he need to be let in? I'm sorry, he says he's waiting and I don't know if he needs to be let in.
He shouldn't have to be let in. He should
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Sorry.
All right, so like I said, the pool, they gave us a long list of items they're looking at that are in need of repair for this year. And then tennis as well. Rob, how much was that tennis pavilion?
Yeah, so there's 2 projects. There's one is the shelter itself. Like right now, in the spring, you can't turn on the water because the pipes freeze, and so they have to have portalets there for the tennis teams to use. And so they've got that project, and also renovating the inside of it a little bit to create more space to store stuff. That combined is about, and he's got here $25,000 to $30,000. He's got quotes from that actually as well. And the important thing with that is Kevin Taylor's raised also private funds of $10,000. So you take 25 to 30 and subtract 10 from that is what the village cost would be. So
okay.
Does that include the deck?
No, so the deck is a separate project. Okay. And he's got a second quote that's much cheaper than the other quote. So he's got a quote from BZAC now. It's like $27,000 instead of 50-something thousand. Yes, for the deck. Okay. But I mean, again, talking to Kevin in terms of priorities, the priority would be to make it so people can use the bathroom in the spring, and not have to set those portalets out there, and just create the storage. So that's where he would put 1, and he would put 2 would be out there putting the new patio type thing out there.
Okay, yeah. So how much for the bathrooms?
So why don't you put in 20 as the net? So again, Kevin's got 10 that he's raised privately. The net cost put in 20 is now. It could be lower. It could be like 15. No, yeah, it could be 15.
All right, 20's in there. And then on the pool, we do a lot of work down there, it looks like. So what are you guys doing?
Are we talking about what we're keeping or what, or is this just all stuff that? we honestly think we're doing all of this.
No, I don't
Well,
think.
I don't think we can do all of it, but you gotta kind of figure out.
All right, can I make a recommendation here?
Prioritize
I mean,
it.
we have a little bit of a problem here. I think what we're doing is using the process we've used in prior years for this capital improvement fund. Where we basically sit down and try to, horse trade what's going to be, in this number and what's not going to be in this number. The problem is that there's a lot of stuff in this village that we're not addressing because we're only dealing with probably less than 10% of the total budget with this capital improvement. We're not really getting granular enough on the rest of the 90% budget to figure out what we're really spending money on in this village. So again, how much we spend out of the capital improvement fund, we probably need to have a conversation about how much do we take out of the general fund for some of this stuff. Like in the essence of the pool, we're going to have to spend $50,000 to fix that water leak if that's what the number is. We've been letting that thing go for 5 years. We're lucky it hasn't caused more damage other than the fact that it costs us $5,000 a year in water. I don't know if we got room in the capital improvement budget, but we've got to find somewhere to come up with $50,000 to fix that pool. And whether it comes out of the general fund or it comes out of this one, we're having the wrong conversation here. We're trying to just figure out how to allocate the 10% number when we've got these projects we have to figure out how to fund.
I don't disagree with you, Joe, but there is one thing. I think we can take some of these items and say, you know what, we just can't do that this year, period. Doesn't matter whether it comes out of the general fund or it comes out of the.
But I would like to have that list of items we need to make that call on. And what we got right now is I don't think we've got a complete list.
What else do you think goes on the list?
What are we going to spend on streets other than Petoskey, if anything?
Well, Chris and I had a conversation, kind of want to throw something out when we get down to infrastructure. So,
okay, so we know on Petoskey, we've got to spend the $145,000 we collected from the waterworks, because that's in this number so far. So I maybe would pull that thing completely out so we don't even talk about it.
Right.
And not act like the money's available in the 380 because it's, or in the 390 because it's not.
No,
I ended it back in as an expense. So.
Right, but I think what Joe's point is we could, you've got funds available as the 645. Really, the Petoskey grant, not only the waterworks, but we've already signed a contract to do the additional work. So we've committed to spend $465,000. Now, the one part is some of that can also be covered out of the street improvement fund. And so we'll need to look at, to Joe's point, we'll need to look at, well, what's the stuff in the street improvement fund that's on the list, and how does that compare versus what we've already committed to with Petoskey?
Yeah, so we bring in about 200,000 in the street funds, but we use 40,000 of that for utilities, the lights. So we got 160 that we can use on streets. And from some conversations I've had, it sounds like we might be spending $130,000 on other street repairs besides Petoskey. So that would leave us 30. So I put a negative 30 in there to help offset, what would come from the street fund.
But we currently have in the street fund a balance of 127. So it seems like.
But we should, Rob, get additional taxes next year, the street taxes, which I think is, I think the run rate this year is what? I'm looking for that schedule.
So again, this is from the fiscal officer's report. We got at the end of November, we got $127,000 balance in the street fund.
Yeah, so we'll probably have about $160,000 in there by the end of the year, because we'll add another $15 or $17,000 in December.
Yep.
So,
right, and then Rob, we collected $158,000 this year in receipts in that fund.
Year to date, and then
right. So next year we would have the 140 that we start the year with, plus another 150. So that's about $290,000 of cash we got available in that fund next year.
Actually, I would bump it up a little bit, Joe, because I would think, again, they bring in about $170,000 a year, and that does not include the new registration fees that we're going to start collecting next year.
Right.
Which I think.
So we got these buckets of money that we can use you know, to address some of these problems. And I don't think we should just focus on this capital improvements budget right now as being the only source for some of this stuff. Because I think someone's going over into general, someone's going to go in capital improvement. The problem is how much room do we have in the general fund to deal with some of this stuff?
So I agree.
And I don't know the answer to that right now.
We don't have any. We already got a deficit of 290 budgeted for 2021.
Okay, and one of the things that's going through my mind is we should take a deep dive in that 2021 budget to understand where we're spending money. You know, because one item that we got in here is trees for $50,000. We not only are talking about spending money out of the capital improvement, but we also have some tree money over in the maintenance department. And we really don't know yet what our plan is for 2021. You know, this is what we've been trying to talk about with the tree advisory board, and we're not going to have it, you know, probably for 60 days at least. But what are we going to spend the money for, and how much do we need in 2021?
I don't know which.
Joe, when do you think you might have, when the tree advisory board would have an idea of it?
I would say, you know, sometime if we push them, hopefully, I would say February, March, we'll probably have an idea.
Okay, Joe, just so we understand, you're talking about they would have a proposal of what they want to spend.
I would like to see some sort of plan. You know, if we're gonna put money out, $50,000 out of capital improvement fund, and we got some money sitting over in the maintenance department, what are we going to do with that money? Typically, we spend it all on removing tree, or most of it on removing trees. And if that's what we're going to do, that's fine. But I'd like to have some idea what that plan is.
Kelly, is John is he still locked out or whatever?
Yeah, it says he's locked out. I sent it to his personal email and he says he can't get in.
Yeah, because I can go through the stuff that's on this poll sheet and really argue for a lot of the items on here, and you know that need to be done. We need to figure out how to spend the money. Now, the slide is the one you might argue, do they need that or not? But the pool commission is trying to address the fact that the diving boards were taken out a couple of years ago, and we provided nothing back to replace that. And that would be the one we could argue a little bit on. But some of this other stuff is just basic stuff that should have been done years ago.
Right, and that's to the slide. I would sort of say, again, is there a way to get private fundraising to help cover some of that cost as well before we sit there and make any kind of commitment like that?
Yeah.
So, just like the tennis is coming up with covering 1/3 of the cost to do that, the renovation of the tennis hut and making it possible to have the bathrooms used.
So does that mean the village is going to commit to 2/3 of the slide?
I don't know. We'll have to see. I think we need to get the whole picture, like you're saying earlier, Joe. But for right now, I agree with you. I would take the slide and say, I think that's probably a nice to have, not a must have.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
I mean, I think we have to do the leak, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you got but a lot of stuff down there, you know, clearly some of the painting, some of the concrete work,
Right.
you know, all of these things are basically part and parcel of enhancing your experience at the pool. And if we're able to do that by spending, you know, on sort of this rudimentary stuff, it would be a lot easier then to privately raise the money for the slide. At least I think so.
Right. I mean, this is just basic maintenance that needs to be done, and all of it together barely adds up to be the slide. And the slide is a great idea, but I mean, no diving board would have cost that. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a wish list.
Can we, so I think going back to Joe's point, I think if we started with, if we can go to the ones that have to come out. So we know, I think we need to talk about the street fund as well. So we bring the street fund and the street projects into this equation as well. And we say, okay, what are the things we have to do? Again, we have to do to Petoskey, but we can probably fund some of that out of the street improvement fund. So if we take the things that we have to do and figure out how we might be able to fund that, then that can leave us with how much is left. And are there other options within the general budget or not, as Joe's saying? So, you know, but I think if we at least try to tackle it in that way to winnow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
So Kelly, can you take us through the street stuff that Chris has, or if Chris?
Well, when Chris and I spoke a couple weeks ago, he had not submitted any, you know, project request just because of budget constraints, which was good. The Albert Place, it seems to have gone back in there, and I know we moved it out from last year to this year, but I just don't see that happening.
I just threw that in there just because I knew it was there a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just, I mean, I think that can go out. I mean, I would take it out. But one of the things that we had talked about was, I mean, there was 133,000 that was for Hiawatha, Bank Place, and part of Belmont, but like half of Belmont is ours, right, Chris?
Yeah, it's Berwick. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Berwick, my mistake. So I guess we need to kind of look at how important that is, because as I've said before, I've had a conversation with Melissa Taylor about trying to get that section of Murray done. And I don't know if we can find a way to work Berwick into that or what, but the thing that Chris and I had really talked about is rather than taking $133,000 and spending it on 3 particular streets, is kind of doing a walk through the village, looking at sections of the streets that really do need repair. Like Rob, for example, Center.
Yeah.
On Mount Vernon, all the way to Indian View is a bombshell. And so, I mean, stuff like that, not necessarily entire street, but block by block sections that need some repair, some grinding and some paving that aren't necessarily a big project, but certainly could use the attention more so than Bank Place or whatever in my mind.
So let me try something else here then. So if the street improvement fund, again, it's got a balance of 127, it's going to get another 16,000. So that's going to put it at 143. Okay. Mm-hmm. We'll get another 170 plus half of we put in there half of the new registration fee money we're going to collect. So I have down, that puts us at $326,000 in the street improvement fund.
For 2021.
Correct. Carrying over the balance from this year, assuming there's no other charges that go against it this year. Oh, and I'm sorry, you should, to Tony's point earlier, and then we should also subtract though 40, because we pay for lighting, electricity, stuff like that also comes out of there. So I'm sorry, so take out 40. So that leaves 286, right? 286 is where we are right now for funds available from the street improvement fund. And again, I think if we can, it would be great if we get paid for some of Petoskey out of there too. Petoskey, we got 465 total. If we can pay for some of that out of there, I think that would really help.
Can we work those numbers, Tony?
Yeah. So how much, I mean, it depends how much we're thinking about for just streets. So, because, that fund is designed for streets. So we got to pay this, if we're doing streets out of that street fund. So we're talking like 130, 120. Chris, you have any idea?
My recommendation would be to take that 286 and cut it in half and give 143 to Petoskey and have 143 available for new, different streets in 2021.
I like that. I mean, we can cover a lot of grinding and repairs, based on our conversation, Chris, with $143,000.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris,
and whatever you have left over, we can use on Petoskey.
Yeah.
do we have kind of a comprehensive survey of our streets and like what state they're in? And
yeah, so every November 11th, I go around, drive the village and give a good, fair, poor, excellent to every street. And then I compile that. So usually I have that ready for our January, February meeting of Public Works. So I have a map right now of that. I just don't have it broken down into database form.
Right. So we'll have an idea of what streets are, really in dire need of attention.
I'll just share with you. I shared this with you 6 months ago. We looked at the numbers from a year ago, and we've got over $3 million worth of streets that are fair or poor, according to Chris's classification system. So we need to start spending money on this thing. All we just do is keep further and further behind. Now, is 160 enough? I don't know. I mean, but I think
he pretty much just said 130 would only do about 3 streets.
Yep.
So.
But Chris, correct me from when you say do the 133 for Bank Place, Hiawatha, and Berwick is to completely grind down the entire street and repave the entire street.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. For the entire length of Bank Place, for the entire length of Hiawatha, and yeah, length and width of Berwick.
right.
Well, Berwick's a short street, isn't it?
It is, and we'd have to talk about that, whether we would, if we do that one, do we get Columbia Township to pay for their half? So right now, I mean, Berwick is like 20 grand, but it's 10,000 for the village and 10,000 for Fairfax.
Sure, Columbia Township.
Oh yeah, sorry, Columbia Township.
I think, Joe, I mean, to your point, Joe, I don't think any of us disagree that we're, every year we just slide further and further behind on this thing. But I mean, given the resources that we're working with, it's like one of those deals. We need more money to sort of get caught up, and that's going to be a whole other discussion, I think.
Yeah, we do. There's no way around that one, Bill, is there?
So do we want to go ahead and just going back to Chris's proposal, do we want to go ahead and say for now, out of the 286, we say 143 is for those 3 streets and any other stuff and any emergency that comes up? And then the other 143 goes to Petoskey? I think it's a good.
No, I think I don't know, do we want to commit half of that to those 3 streets, or do we want to look at other sections that perhaps need work more than an entire street?
Why don't we just say that we're going to commit the 143 to basically, grinding and repaving, and it's sort of yet to be determined.
Yeah, that works for me.
I mean, personally, I know, Hiawatha is in dire need, but maybe we should go around and maybe there's.
Chris is doing that. Chris has got, once he finishes his analysis, we'll have that.
We'll have.
But again, let's bear in mind, Chris's analysis is for full streets. And we're talking about potentially just repairing part of a street. But I mean, it's, we need to have that report, but still need to like about breaking it into sections as well to get it down from 3 million.
Yeah.
So Chris and I can talk about that.
All right, let's move on here, guys.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so for streets, we've got 465 for Petoskey. And then we're taking 143 out of the other fund, so plus 5 for curb. So we're at 327 on the streets. We also took out Albert Place.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
John's still not in.
I think he's locked out. He just texted me. He can't.
Can he call in on his phone? There's usually a phone number.
Yeah.
All right, so we're at 6:17 as far as time right now. So we're going to run up against the 6:30 council meeting. I'd like to make a couple recommendations. The number one, we don't try to figure out exactly how we're going to spend the permanent improvement fund, because we're not going to figure that out in the next 13 minutes. But there's a couple things I'd like to see to try to figure this out. Is this roads conversation we just had. If we were going to allocate some money towards doing roads, which roads do you think we should do, Chris? And come back with a little bit more granular detail on that, so we can make the call exactly what we'll be doing and answer some of these questions about, do we do the whole street or part of the street? But I think we need to figure out, can we allocate some money to doing roads other than Hiawatha? Because, basically what we did this year was move Hiawatha from 2020 to 2021. So we got some, in essence, some money out there.
Yeah.
But then I also want to, on the maintenance department, is get a clear understanding about what is our current inventory of vehicles, how old are they, what's, how many miles, or how, what's their useful life? Because it sounds like we got one that's kind of on its last leg and probably needs to be replaced right away. And I want to know if we've got other vehicles like that coming in the next, 3 years, 5 years, or what is that schedule? What is the plan for vehicle replacement within the maintenance department? Because, and I've seen it, I know we're doing some things to, baling wire and duct tape to keep the things, running. I mean, John's indication, we welded a stop sign in the bed of the one truck. It's probably not a good situation. So at some point, we need to make an evaluation about what's that rolling stock look like, and when do we have to replace it, and what's it going to cost to replace that, so we can have an understanding about what are we looking at in the next couple of years. the fire department and police department gave us their 5-year budget. So and in fact, the fire department gave us a 10-year budget. So we have a clear understanding about what fire department needs are. The pool, you've seen all that about what the conversation is, about what things need to be done, probably sooner rather than later. And maybe we can have a little bit deeper conversation about the slide in the next 30 days. I can go back to the pool commission and ask them, do you really want to try to do this in 2021? And do you think you can do a fundraiser to pay for 2/3 of it or a third of it or whatever we believe the number would be? Tennis, I think we got everything there at this point. We just got an email today that tennis needs to spend about $8,000 a year in crack filling a year is kind of the number that is there. And then every 6 years, I believe it was, we need to resurface the courts, which is probably a $35,000 to $42,000 number. And that's just the cycle that we're in on this stuff. And I don't think we've ever done this before where we understand what our needs are as we project out for 5 to 10 years, whether it's the pool. And I will tell you on the pool, we're probably facing a bigger number down there at some point too. The lap pool is probably getting near the end of its useful life. And so we've got these needs out there, and all we kind of do is focus on trying to divvy up this little bucket of money we got right now. And I think we have to understand our needs a little bit deeper as we go through this, because we may get to that ultimate conversation about, do we need more money?
I agree.
But I think at this point, we need more information to try to make these calls about where should we be spending money right now? What's the critical needs that we need to address in 2021? And try to do as best job as possible, because we may take some out of permanent improvement. We may take it out of the general.
I agree, Joe. Chris, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you prioritize the trees, can you also, or excuse me, the streets, can you also give us an idea of, sometimes it may in the short term, be cheaper to fix something as opposed to biting off the whole thing? And is there a trade-off? Like, are you really buying yourself time, or are you just, kind of putting, a Band-Aid on a leak that's going to just be a bigger problem if you don't address it completely right now? Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah. What's that break-even point?
Yeah, that's a much more concise way to say it. Thank you.
And I want to add one other thing. That Chris and you and I had this conversation 6 months ago about the sewers in the village.
Mm-hmm.
And the sewers the storm sewers that are in the ground right now are probably about 100 years old, based upon what we know about the storm sewer. And Chris, you feel like we're probably getting towards the end of the useful life on those. And so we're going to continue to see these storm sewers issues. And I'm not sure on Albert Place how critical that issue is, because it sounds like it was critical at one point, but we haven't done anything for 2 to 3 years. Is that one we can kind of put in the back burner? But I also have a question about what's our storm sewer spending need for the village at all? And Chris, you and I talked about, at some point, do we try to do some assessments and understand what the condition of those storm sewers are down there?
Right.
Because right. I got a sense that we're going to start seeing these things, coming up and saying, I need help, or I need to be worked on.
Right.
So again, there's these laundry, I used the term before, a laundry list of stuff that we need to figure out in this village about where do we think we're going to be spending money in the future. And I'm not real comfortable about just kind of divvying up this little bucket right now until we figure out some of the stuff, and hopefully we can do it in the next 30 days.
Okay, hey guys, we really got to wrap up here, because we're going to have about a 5-minute break here between. Some of us might have nature calling.
Well, can I make a motion?
I would just say, Joe, I agree with you. I think we need to be a little more strategic and, plan. It sounds like, I'm new at this. So it sounds like you've got a good, you've got your finger on the pulse, as it were, that we maybe need to be more strategic. What do you think, Chris and Tim?
I can't argue with strategic, it's hard to, yeah, it's just going to take some time to put reports together.
So can I make a quick motion that, number one, that we table this and for 30 days. In the 30-day period, we collect whatever information we believe we need from every department head. So then we can make a better decision 30 days from now.
So
I also,
or Joe, it could be at the first council meeting
That-
in,
that-
in January.
or we could do it before the council meeting if we wanted to do it that way.
January 11th.
And the second part of that motion is I'd like to do a
Be the 11th.
deep dive into the general budget for 2021. And when I say deep dive, I want to use a technique called zero-based budgeting, where we take a deep review of the budgets to see, where are we spending money, to understand it a little bit better. And I would like to refer that into the finance committee to do that. So all of council doesn't have to worry about attending these meetings, but we would sit down with the department heads and understand, where the dollars are being spent right now, so we can come back and advise full council on that. So two things: one, delay this until January as far as the permanent improvement, and second, start with the zero-based budgeting review.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, show of hands. All right, sounds good. All right, guys, with that said, I'm going to conclude the meeting here, and we will pick up again in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Is it a different link?
Yeah.
A little late tonight.
Right?
Different link.
Different link. Okay.
Different link.
Give me time to find it.
Bill, I'm going to be like 20 minutes to 25 minutes late for this next meeting. I have to run out, but then I'll be back. Okay. So I'll just pop in.